This is Yerushalmi Peah, Daf Chav Gimel, the article Oz V'Hadar edition. We're starting right at the top. We got yesterday right to the bottom of Chav Beis on the base. And in the Vilna edition, it is Daf Yud Gimel Amid Aleph. Shubin Levi Omar. It's about halfway down the page. The last word on the line is Rival. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 lines down the wide lines. Rabbi Shubin Levi, said, Omar Aleim Ve'aleim. Says Pnei Moshe Aleim Miboile. It should say Alehem, and yet it says Ksiv Ve'alehem. V'chein Kol Miboile. It should say Kol V'ksiv Kik Kol. V'chein Dvorim Ksiv Ha Dvorim. Extra letters all over the place. Elamit teaches Mikra Mishnah the Talmud Agora Chulei HaKol Nemel Moshe Sinai. Everything which we have as Masorah was given to Moshe Rabbeinu at Har Sinai. And Shum Levi Omer Aleim Ba'aleim Kol Kol Dvorim HaDvorim Mikra Mishnah Talmud V'Agoda Chumash Mishnayis Talmud and Agada to a few much time Vasik Osi Lahoros Lifnei Rabbo, even that which an older Talmud, which is somebody who's saying MS as opposed to somebody who might be saying Sheker because he's young, was given to Moshe me from Har Sinai. Osi few much time Vasik Osi Lahoros Lifnei Rabbo Kvar Ne'eman Moshe mi Sinai. Matam Pachuk teaches us this. Pasuk Koheles. Yesh davar, there is something. Shiomar Adam, person will say, "Be'ezeh chodosh." Since it's new, who the goymer, etc. The Mashiach Haber is trying to answer with the rest of the pasuk. Look, far yolo lamim. It already existed in the past. If I recall correctly, Rabbi Soslanter says that there's a mila in saying something which is even sheker, but it's a good word. Because if it's MS, it was already given Moshe Sinai. But if it's Sheker, so then you came up with it on your own. It's just something which is your he's got there. So obviously this is a bit tongue in cheek, but there is a message there about even the things which are not necessarily MS to have a room in Torah, if that, as long as you're learning L'Shem Shamayim, of course. Time Rav Chavtim and Show. Skip. Sorry. Rabbi Zir B'Shem Show Ein Lamedim Halachos. We can't learn from halachos. In other words, from a list or a compendium of halachos. Lamina Agados, nor from Agadata, Lamina Tosfos, not from the Tosefta, presumably. Elamina Talmud, but rather from Talmud. The Mareches Aruch brings down that Peush Bar Samcho, it's not considered to be reliable, and Yismuchu Bo Anshe Talmud Yodabo, unless the Chachmi Gemara recognize that text or that source as being valid. Otherwise, you can't learn from it. Tanya Rabbi Chalafta ben Shaul. Rabbi Chalafta Rabbi Chalafta ben Shaul said, "He shnei minei chitim, he shnei minei sorim." The same halach applies to two types of wheat, which you saw in our Mishnah applies to the two types of barley. So the main Moshe says, "So perkan chayil Tani Rabbi Chalafta chen tzarich lamar." The kushi, it's a question. Tani Rabbi Chalafta ben Shaul, he shnei minei chitim, he shnei minei sorim. Just like with two types of wheat, so there's two types of barley. Din echad l'shtein l'sem l'cha v'hab masisin lo skar l'cha mashmi Sinai el b'shnei minei chitim. So our Mishnah only mentioned l'cha mashmi Sinai about two types of wheat. Amal l'mei min l'cha. So here we see can extrapolate from l'cha mashmi Sinai. Udamas milsam mislam and to infer from it. It says ein l'mei min halachos. the way that he means, it seems to say that you can't learn out halacha from halacha, and according to the Bnei Moshe's interpretation, even if it's a list of halachos of Moshe Sinai, you can't learn from that list, that compendium. Yet it seems that two types of barley is a derivation from halacha Moshe Sinai, from the halacha Moshe, which we have by two types of wheat. We learn out this halacha by barley. So, Rabbi Zira, is this a kachay sa halacha biyadon? No, this is also by halacha Moshe Sinai. Ushchachua, and they forgot it. Therefore, they have to learn it out again. The that the two types of wheat, two types of barley, halacha is the same. It says it's not they derive barley from wheat. That was halacha Moshe. They're both equivalent for this halacha. They forgot it. That's the only mention in Mishnah, two types of wheat. And the Brisa brings down both of them. Says more further, what we learn, somebody who's distributing or dividing up, he's taking moist onions to sell in the marketplace, and he leaves the dry ones for his warehouse. So Mora says, and he keeps the dry ones for his own silo. So the Gemara, we learn Brisa that they're the same halacha like two types of wheat. You have to give a pair on each one. So it's asked Gemara, shuk v'goren kachai halacha biyadam ushchachua. Says Bnei Moshe b'tmiya v'cheish lo lamar shekachai halacha Moshe Sinai shenosein ledin l'shuk v'goren b'mitzolim. The halacha should be the same by the marketplace versus the silo in terms of onions, as him zoreh, so there's naming echitim, as somebody plants his field with two types of wheat. Havadid lo nishnu elu shnei din kachas. They couldn't be learned together. It's not like barley and wheat. Some extrapolate a lot of the onions midin shnei min echitim. Halacha of two types of wheat. Alma. So we see. The Lamed Malachim Moshe Sinai Udavar Acher. The Lamed Malachim Moshe Sinai something else. The Lo Mishani Midei, and the Gemara doesn't answer. Leaves it difficult. I'm not. It's a little bit interesting. Why can they have given the halacha by onions the same time as the halacha by wheat? Peinush does explain, but Shaitar Yisrael does. Shaitar Yisrael says the aim is like chavim min haTorah. The Rashberg of Mishnah Dalit and place of Sachim Nafnuvam on base say that we don't. They're the Rabbanon. So obviously we're lemating in halacha from the two types of wheat. So that's why how we knew that they couldn't be one halacha together, because the Peah by onions is the Rabbanon. Says the Gemara further. So again, we that's difficult, and then we go on. Actually, I see here that I wrote a Megor that the Kavanaki learns that it's a raya, the opposite way, the Pnei Moshe, not Ikman Moshe. It says this is a raya, and when he reads like this, but Ninon b'nichusa as a raya, Makam Yisrael Meshug Shagar Islach Meimar. Islach Meimar Shuk v'goren. You must have a slightly different girsa. I don't know if it fits into the words as they're written in front of us. Yes, he does have different girsa. Islach Meimar Shuk v'goren. How would you how would you have distinguished, I guess, between Shuk and Goren? So it must be they must say Sinai, that all fruits which can be divided into two, give two separate pairs on. It's more mashma that it's a question. but just Kamnaki so learns it's a raya. Echnai b'shem Shmuel ein l'meidim min haraya. You can't extrapolate from a halacha which is given without not being stated halacha l'maisa. Hakom ein l'meidim min ha'maisa. Yet also we don't learn from a maisa. Says Libradah, Perish Rashbam, Mir Rabbo Samaisa, Aik Baloch Bekach, the Shema, Tava Darvasho Samaisa. Maybe we made a mistake. The Mashbiach has a slightly different issue why he can't learn from a maisa. He says that that perhaps it's not wasn't Magia Lo Ra, this person. And that's what it says here. Ahud Lo Savar. He says you can't learn from the Maisa of a Tam Chacham who hasn't yet been reached Hara because he hasn't learned to be to Svara to understand things completely. Bramba Ahud Savar, but if you're somebody who you know was Magia Lo Ra, he's somebody who has the maturity and the training. Avad, you can do like somebody who does, who says to do lemaisa. You can learn out from his maisa, and that works also according to the question of maybe he made a mistake. That I guess somebody who's savar, we assume that he's not going to make a mistake. Amar le bein savar bein lo savar. He says no, it doesn't. Armada suggested that distinction. Rejected. He says bein savar bein lo savar, but who the plige? You can't rely on the maisa. Baramba who the lo plige bein savar bein lo savar, but there's machlokes whether he's savar or not savar. You can rely on him. Now that really is difficult to say like the Mashbiach. I don't know exactly how the Mashbiach is going to deal with that. It sounds like even it's not Ogil Raw, so that's a little bit difficult to say that. So Kavanaki says when is it the time of low savar means that where we don't have there's not mistaber to learn not mistaber what the person did. In other words, it's a davar tamua. So then we don't learn from neither from his hara nor from his maisa. And then the Gemara says no, that which you don't learn from his hara or maisa, bein savar bein lo savar, whether it's mistaber or not. But because it's a machlekes, because unless somebody explicitly determines machlekes, we don't know for sure that this is perhaps this person doing all according to one opinion, not according to the other opinion. Barambahu the lo plige, and so where there's no machlekes, so we learn from a raw or from Maisa ben Savar and Loma Savar whether it's mistaber or not, and presumably that means we're talking not like Mashbiach, but everybody here we're talking about is Mahikiyah Raw. And the question is, when do we learn from even we don't understand, or when we learn from only where we have to where we understand? When we understand what he's doing, we can learn with him. Initially, Ramada says you can learn from him even if it's in place of machlekes. But the Shmuel says no, whether it's machlokes or not, whether it's savar or not, whether it's mistaber or not mistaber. When the machlokes you can't learn unless it's explicit to resolution of machlokes. But if there's no machlokes, whether it's mistaber or not, if the chacham is making a you can learn from his hara and his maisa what to do. Okay, halacha hey. Yeah, halacha hey. Sweater shekatzu goyim, a sweater which is harvested by non-Jews. Shekatzu listim, harvested by bandits. Because when it was stalks were gnawed at by ants. Karsurik was cut down by the wind, or behemo, or an animal. Even though there's grain there, I just looked at the Radah and I saw that basically the Kavanaki is the same as the Radah. I shouldn't have noticed that before because I have a mark next to the Radah, but in any event, it's the same as the Kavanaki. So I should go to a goyim, should go to a listim, should go to a nemalim, because Samuel nemalim. Shvarta ruach obehema ptura. It's exempt from payah, even though there's grain, but it wasn't harvested properly. Katzah chetzia katzua listim chetzia. If you harvested half of it, but then the listim harvested the second half. Ptura, it's exempt from payah. Shchavas hakatzir bakama, because you had harvested what its obligation to pay was in what was still standing, and you didn't harvest that. On the other hand, katzur listim chetzia, if you the bandits harvested half of it, you have a harvested half of it. Nos and pay mashakatzar, you have to get paid for that which you harvested. Um, because again, the chovas peah is in the kama. Of course, you don't have to give peah on what the bandits harvested. If you harvested half and you sold the other half, the buyer understood he was buying an obligation to pay and he has to give pay on everything. If you harvested half of it and gave half of it to Hekdesh, the person who redeems it from the gizbar, who knows saying pay, he gives pay on everything. Okay, so says the Gemara Masnisa, our Mishnah is because Shetzua le'atzmam. This is the when the listim, etc. They did it for themselves. The listim, avokatzuli Yisrael, but if they harvested for the Yisrael, chayeves, then the Jew has to still get a payout. Tani came. We also learned this in the Brisa. Ain't sochrin polim goyim imnesha ein bekim beleket. It says Moshe b'lein yichus anim l'kot. They won't let the people, the anim, come to collect. Shmami enough, and this is right. The polim goyim shekotin shel ba'al bayis. If you have workers who are going, which are harvesting for the ba'al bayis, that they are chay beleket for them shil peah, and also shilcha and peah as well. And I think that's the bottom of Chav Gimel Amud Beis. So we will stop here for today.